Now, a new analysis of jihadist propaganda has revealed that Islamic State and Al Qaeda are twisting values of honour and solidarity to recruit impressionable young militants to their cause. The study by the Tony Blair Faith Foundation examined over 100 online extremist videos, and researchers discovered that IS and Al Qaeda propaganda promoted fundamentally similar ideologies, challenging the view that Islamic State is more extreme. Well, Tony Blair's just finished delivering that speech in New York. Joins me now live. Tony Blair, very good to talk to you. What struck you most about this research?
That their whole ideology is very much about religion, that you can't deal with it unless you deal with the religious aspect of it, and that therefore any strategy to defeat these people that doesn't address the theological and religious and scriptural basis of their extremism isn't going to work. The second thing we found is that, unfortunately, though the number of actual violent extremists is relatively small, the number of people who share aspects of this extremist ideology is unfortunately quite large. And some of the clerics, for example, promoting this type of ideology, they've got Twitter followings running into millions of people. Some of the majority populations in some countries support aspects of the extremism, even if they don't agree with the methods. So what it shows you, I think, is that if you want to fight this, as well as the security methods and the military methods and so on, you have to deal with the ideology of extremism.
Why do we in the West, and in fact right the way throughout the world that is not fundamental or extremist of this type, why do we appear to be losing the battle of ideas and ideology?
Well, I think we're reluctant to call it about religion when actually it is, at least in part and fundamentally, about religion. And it's also because I think we find it quite hard to come to terms with the fact that this isn't just a problem in the Middle East, it's a problem in Africa, Central Asia, the Far East, and it is a problem within Islam. Now, it's only this extremism and the ideology is only shared by a minority of people, but we do have to recognize it for what it is, realize that it's possible today to have an alliance with the majority of Muslims who completely reject this ideology, but we've got to get organized, and we've got to recognize that unless we deal with this extremism that is, I think, deeper and broader than we really want to accept, then we're never going to deal with the actual problem we have.
The governments of the world who've tried to tackle it so far have largely used, in the first wave, bombs and missiles and guns, and not really to any great effect. So where do we go from there? Well,
I think we have to realize this isn't going to be solved in a few years. It's a struggle that's going to last a generation. And I think we still haven't got down to the roots, for example, particularly around the education issue. The fact is, day in, day out, millions of young children the world over are educated to a narrow view of religion, to a bigoted view of the world, to regard those who don't share their view of their own religion as essentially the enemy. And one of the things that we'll be launching as an organization in the next few months is to say that it should be part of the global responsibility of all countries to promote religious tolerance, root out religious prejudice within their school systems, formal or informal. Because this stuff is coming up as a result of teaching that has been spread across the world over decades, and we're now reaping, the seeds that we have sown are now giving rise to these poisonous plants of extremism and hatred towards people who are different.
Is there more that the more moderate religions of the world can do? Have they in some ways failed to be at the forefront of countering this scourge?
Well, I think there is more that they can do, and we also, as I say, have real allies within Islam today. So there are clerics and scholars who are putting forward a whole scriptural basis for a much more modern, much more inclusive view of Islam. There are people in countries who are trying to change the way that we tackle this extremism and root out those that are trying to promote it. But they need us to be working in alliance with them. So you've got, if you take the Middle East today, you've got one set of issues that are all the military issues, the security issues. They're very important. We have to deal with them. But underneath all of this, if you don't deal with the ideology, and even in countries like our own, by the way, if you don't deal with this ideology, you're always going to be taking more and more security methods, sometimes military action, but you're not going to get to the heart of this. And the heart of it is an ideology that is poisonous and that has to be uprooted at its source.
Fascinating subject. Whilst I've got you there, one last thought, if I can turn to modern-day politics. Mr. Corbyn has taken over as leader of the party of which once you were the leader, and some people would see his views as rather extreme. Do you welcome him leading the Labour Party, and where do you think he's going to take it?
I just thought you might ask me this, Jeremy. But I think if I'm going to talk about the Labour Party, I'll talk about it when I'm back home, not here, and actually particularly not in this museum and memorial to 9/11. But I understand why you have to ask me.
Fair enough. Good point. Thank you very much indeed for talking about the main point there, the analysis carried out by your foundation into the jihadists' problem. Thank you.